Thinking about yourself always begins with mastering the truth that asterisk asterisk your mind is your master system, and whatever you permit, you promote asterisk asterisk. Most people underestimate the power of their inner dialogue, yet every direction your life takes is shaped by the thoughts you consistently allow to live inside you. When you think about yourself intentionally, not casually or occasionally, you start realizing how much influence you truly hold over your outcomes. Your mind is the control center that filters experiences, assigns meaning, and determines how you respond to life. If your thoughts are filled with doubt, fear, comparison, or self-criticism, it becomes impossible to rise above the level of your internal beliefs. But when you begin to think about yourself with clarity, responsibility, and discipline, everything in your world starts shifting because you are taking ownership of the one system that governs your destiny. Your thoughts are not random, they are seeds. Whatever you allow to take root eventually becomes your reality. If you permit negative self-talk, you promote a lifestyle built on insecurity. If you permit procrastination, you promote delay. If you permit people to disrespect your boundaries, you promote relationships where your value is overlooked. That is why thinking about yourself always is not a selfish act. It is a strategic one. It is the understanding that you are the gatekeeper of your own mind, and if you do not guard that gate, anyone and anything can walk in and rearrange the direction of your life. The minute you start thinking about yourself with intention, you start noticing how much you have been allowing by default habits, people, conversations, environments, and thoughts that do not support the life you want to live. Your mind is constantly responding to the instructions you give it. When you think about yourself with confidence, your behavior follows that image. When you think about yourself as unqualified, your actions shrink to match that belief. The internal picture you hold dictates every external result you create. Thinking about yourself always means paying attention to that picture, refining it, strengthening it, and refusing to let it be shaped by people who do not understand your purpose. It means recognizing that your life does not expand through wishes or luck, but through the conscious shaping of your own identity. You cannot rise higher than the self-concept you carry within. If you see yourself as ordinary, you will act in ordinary ways. If you see yourself as capable, your decisions will reflect capability. Your results cannot exceed your internal blueprint. And that blueprint is constructed through constant, deliberate thought about who you are and who you are becoming. People often fear thinking about themselves because they are afraid of confronting the truth of their habits, their wounds, their fears, or their potential. But ignoring yourself does not protect you. It only keeps you stuck. When you begin thinking about yourself always, you start becoming aware of patterns that have been shaping your life without your permission. You begin noticing the automatic reactions you inherited, the limiting beliefs you absorbed, the assumptions you accepted without questioning. Awareness is the first step to mastery, and you cannot become aware of anything you refuse to think about. A person who never thinks about themselves will always be controlled by the environments they live in. A person who thinks about themselves intentionally begins to control the environment they create. Your inner world is your responsibility. If you don't manage your thoughts will manage you. If you don't direct your mind will drift into negativity, fear, and conformity. Life rewards those who manage themselves from within. Thinking about yourself always means acknowledging your worth, examining your patterns, correcting your mindset, and choosing what you will allow to take root inside your consciousness. It means understanding that you are not just a participant in your life, you are the architect. Every decision, every action, every step begins with a thought you created. And if you do not shape that thought, the world will shape it for you. You are the only one living inside your mind. You are the only one hearing yourself talk. You are the only one experiencing the consequences of what you allow to stay in your thinking. When you think about yourself always, you reclaim control. You reclaim direction. You reclaim identity. You begin to build a life that reflects inner strength instead of inner confusion. You start promoting peace instead of chaos, confidence instead of insecurity, purpose instead of aimlessness. And the more consistently you think about yourself with intention, the more powerfully your life aligns with the vision you hold within you. You cannot pour into others from an empty container, and this truth becomes clearer the moment you begin understanding the value of self-focus. Too many people live their lives constantly giving, serving, offering, supporting, and stretching themselves for everyone around them while silently draining their own emotional, mental, and spiritual reserves. They confuse self-neglect with kindness and exhaustion with generosity. But real strength does not come from running yourself dry. It comes from maintaining a strong, healthy, well-nourished inner life that allows you to give from overflow rather than depletion. When you think about yourself always, you begin to recognize that you are the source of everything you contribute to the world. And if that source is empty, everything connected to you becomes unstable. You are responsible for maintaining your inner well-being so that you can genuinely show up for others with energy, clarity, and truth. Life demands energy. Relationships demand attention. Goals demand focus. Dreams demand discipline. And all of this requires a you who is full, present, and internally balanced. But when you give without pausing, when you help without replenishing, when you sacrifice without reflection, you slowly weaken the very foundation your life is built on. You cannot build a strong future from a weak inner state. When you think about yourself always, you start realizing that the most powerful version of you is the one that is fueled, rested, centered, and clear. You begin to understand that your well-being is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Ignoring yourself does not make you noble, it makes you unavailable to your own potential. Taking care of yourself is not selfish, it is an act of stewardship over the life you have been entrusted with. People often believe that focusing on themselves means abandoning their responsibilities or becoming less caring toward others, but the opposite is true. You become a more present parent when your mind is at peace. You become a more supportive partner when your spirit is grounded. You become a better friend when your emotions are stable. You become a stronger worker when your energy is renewed. Everything you do improves when you are internally full. Thinking about yourself always means making sure your inner world is equipped to handle what life requires from you. It is understanding that you cannot lead anyone, your family, your team, your community, if you do not first lead yourself. Leadership starts with self-mastery, and self-mastery begins with taking care of your own vessel. When you constantly pour into others without replenishing, you start to experience resentment, frustration, and burnout. You begin to feel invisible, unappreciated, or taken for granted, not because people are intentionally hurting you, but because you have trained them to believe you need nothing while you meet every need. When you think about yourself always, you start recognizing the importance of boundaries. You begin to say no where you used to say yes. You begin to rest where you used to push through. You begin to invest in yourself where you used to sacrifice everything. Boundaries are not walls, they are signals that you value your energy. They protect your purpose from being consumed by demands that do not grow you. Without boundaries, your life becomes shaped by the expectations of others. With boundaries, your life becomes shaped by intention. Thinking about yourself always means checking in with your emotional state and asking, asterisk, what do I need right now? What am I feeling? What is draining me? What is filling me? Asterisk. This kind of awareness builds resilience. It allows you to correct your direction before you crash, to refuel before you burn out, to adjust before you break. When you honor your needs, you strengthen your ability to be present for others in a genuine, meaningful way. People can sense when your help is coming from overflow versus obligation. There is a different energy, a different clarity, a different sincerity when you give from a place of fullness. Your presence becomes more valuable, your words carry more weight, and your actions hold more strength when they come from a well-nourished self. Every dream you carry, every goal you have, every vision you see requires a version of you that is whole. You cannot achieve greatness through exhaustion. You cannot build anything meaningful while ignoring your own inner voice. You cannot step into your highest potential if you continuously abandon yourself emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. When you think about yourself always, you begin fueling your life from a deeper place. You start reading, resting, praying, reflecting, exercising, learning, and growing, not because anyone asked you to, but because you understand that your destiny depends on the health of your inner container. And the truth is, the world benefits more from a person who is centered than from a person who is constantly depleted. Your relationships thrive when you do. Your decisions improve when you do. Your opportunities expand when you do. Everything connected to you rises when you rise internally. Thinking about yourself always is not about selfishness, it is about effectiveness. You cannot pour wisdom, love, energy, vision, or strength into others unless you have first poured it into yourself. Your progress, your peace, and your purpose all depend on the condition of your inner life, and the more you honor that, the more powerful your impact becomes. The world reflects back to you who you believe you are, and this truth becomes undeniable the more you pay attention to the patterns in your life. Everything you experience externally is connected to the identity you hold internally. Your relationships mirror your self-worth, your opportunities mirror your self-belief, your outcomes mirror your expectations, and your environment mirrors your internal standards. When you think about yourself always, You begin to understand that life is not responding to your wishes, your intentions, or even your words. It is responding to your self-image. You cannot outperform the identity you hold within. If you see yourself as limited, your actions will unconsciously reinforce limitation. If you see yourself as capable, your behavior will naturally align with possibility. The inner portrait you carry becomes the blueprint the world uses to interact with you. Most people try to change their circumstances without changing themselves. They chase success without believing they deserve it. They seek love without believing they are worthy of it. They pursue opportunities while doubting their ability to sustain them. This internal contradiction creates a life filled with struggle because the external world cannot maintain what the internal world does not support. When you think about yourself always, you begin to inspect the beliefs you have accepted as truth, beliefs shaped by childhood, culture, past experiences, failures, and the opinions of others. You start asking, asterisk, who do I truly believe I am? Do my actions align with the identity I want to live with? Am I living from confidence or from fear? Asterisk. This level of self-awareness is what shifts your entire life because your identity is the foundation of everything you become. Your mind is always looking for evidence to support the person you believe you are. If you see yourself as someone who never succeeds, your subconscious will filter opportunities in a way that proves that belief. If you see yourself as resilient, your mind will look for solutions instead of setbacks. The world doesn't change first, you do. And when your identity rises, the world is forced to adjust to match that new level. Thinking about yourself always means being intentional about the beliefs you allow to govern your life. It means choosing the identity that aligns with your purpose rather than recycling the identity shaped by old wounds. You begin to realize that self-belief is not wishful thinking. It is the foundation that your actions stand on. If your foundation is weak, everything built on it becomes unstable. But when your self-belief is strong, you naturally attract experiences that confirm your sense of worth. People often live beneath their potential, not because life is unfair, but because their identity is restricted. They have trained themselves to shrink, to apologize for their greatness, to settle for less than they deserve, and to adapt to environments that do not reflect their true value. Thinking about yourself always disrupts that pattern. It forces you to confront the limitations you've accepted and challenge them with truth. It requires honesty about the stories you tell yourself. Stories like, I'm not enough. People like me don't succeed. It's too late for me. Or I'm not as good as others. These stories become self-fulfilling prophecies, shaping your decisions and behaviors until your life reflects them. But when you begin thinking about yourself intentionally, you can rewrite those internal narratives. You can create a new identity rooted in purpose, strength, ability, and vision. Every achievement begins with an internal permission slip. You have to believe you are allowed to succeed. You have to believe you are capable of growth. You have to believe you are worthy of abundance, respect, love, and opportunity. Nothing changes until your self-concept changes. Thinking about yourself always means nurturing a mindset that matches the future you want to create. It means reminding yourself daily of who you are becoming, rather than who you were. It means talking to yourself with respect, patience, and vision. Your inner voice becomes the guide that directs your outer decisions, and the more powerful that voice becomes, the more powerful your life grows. The world cannot treat you better than you treat yourself. People follow the standard you set. They respond to the energy you project. They respect the boundaries you enforce. When you think about yourself always, you begin setting standards that reflect your true worth. You stop accepting half effort from others. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop settling for environments that shrink your self-belief. You start attracting people who honor your value because you now honor it yourself. Your identity communicates louder than your words. And when your internal world is aligned with confidence and clarity, the external world responds with opportunity and alignment. Your life is a mirror. Every result, every relationship, every breakthrough, every setback is connected to the identity you carry. Thinking about yourself always is the act of shaping that identity with intention, refining it with truth, and strengthening it with discipline. And the more you elevate the way you see yourself, the more your world rises to meet that new reflection. Protecting your personal environment, your thoughts, your energy, and your standards is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect you will ever practice, and it becomes even more essential when you understand that everything you tolerate is silently shaping the direction of your destiny. Your environment is not just the physical space around you. It is the atmosphere of your inner world, the quality of the conversations you allow, the mindset of the people you surround yourself with, and the standards you enforce or ignore. When you begin thinking about yourself always, you start realizing how deeply your environment influences your decisions, your confidence, your clarity, and ultimately your future. Every dream grows or dies based on the environment it is placed in. You cannot plant a seed in toxic soil and expect a healthy harvest, and the same is true for your life. If you do not protect your environment, you will always be fighting battles that never should have existed in the first place. Your thoughts are the first layer of your environment. What you allow yourself to think repeatedly becomes the mental climate you operate in every single day. If your mind is filled with worry, negativity, or fear, your life will naturally lean toward hesitation and insecurity. If your thoughts are grounded in focus, gratitude, discipline, and possibility, your life will move in the direction of growth. Protecting your thoughts means refusing to be a passive consumer of mental noise. It means being intentional about what you listen to, what you watch, who you talk to, and what you meditate on. It means recognizing when your mind is drifting toward patterns that drain you and learning how to redirect your focus. Your thoughts are too powerful to leave unguarded. They determine the emotional temperature of your life. And when you think about yourself always, you become more protective of the ideas you allow to influence your inner world. Your energy is the second layer of your environment, and it is just as important. Energy is the unseen force that determines how you show up in the world. When your energy is low, everything feels heavier: decisions, conversations, responsibilities, goals. But when your energy is protected, renewed, and centered, you move through life with clarity and strength. Protecting your energy means distancing yourself from people who drain you, conversations that weaken you, and habits that distract you. It means paying attention to what lifts your spirit and what suffocates it. Some people do not deserve access to your energy, not because you do not care about them, but because your purpose cannot afford unnecessary depletion. Thinking about yourself always forces you to acknowledge this truth. You begin to understand that not everyone can walk with you into the next season of your life. Some people are tied to your past, not your future. And protecting your energy sometimes means releasing attachments that no longer align with your growth. Your standards form the third layer of your personal environment, and they determine what you accept and reject in your life. Your standards communicate your self-worth, not through words, but through what you tolerate. If you accept disrespect, you invite more disrespect. If you allow inconsistency, you normalize it. If you tolerate mediocrity, it becomes your default. But when you elevate your standards, everything connected to your life is forced to adjust. People rise to meet your expectations, or they fall out of your life. Opportunities align with your discipline. Habits improve to match the person you are becoming. Protecting your standards is not about controlling others. It is about controlling the atmosphere you allow around you. It is about refusing to shrink, compromise, or settle for anything that diminishes your potential. Thinking about yourself always means setting standards that reflect your purpose, not your past. Your environment influences your identity more than you realize. If you surround yourself with people who fear growth, your ambition will start to shrink. If you spend time with people who complain, your gratitude will weaken. If you allow negativity to dominate your atmosphere, even your goals will begin to lose their power. But when you protect your environment intentionally, everything in your life becomes clearer. You begin choosing silence over arguments, peace over chaos, progress over comfort, and purpose over approval. You begin organizing your life around what strengthens you instead of what distracts you. You begin removing anything that does not support your growth, whether it is a habit, a person, a belief, or a routine. And the more you protect your environment, the more naturally you rise. Thinking about yourself always means understanding that your environment is the invisible architect of your future. It shapes your thoughts, influences your decisions, and molds your identity. When you protect your environment, you protect your destiny. You create space for clarity to expand, for discipline to deepen, for confidence to grow, and for purpose to unfold. Your life begins to reflect the strength of the environment you build around your mind, your energy, and your standards. Greatness demands separation, and this is a truth that becomes clearer the moment you begin to rise above the noise of your surroundings. Not everyone can go where you are going, not everyone can understand the vision inside you, and not everyone will support the process of your evolution. Separation is not about walking away from people out of pride. It is about walking toward the version of yourself that is calling you forward. When you think about yourself always, you start recognizing that growth often requires distance from distractions, from old habits, from draining environments, and sometimes from relationships that no longer align with your purpose. Separation is the silent space where transformation happens. It is the place where clarity deepens, where perspectives shift, and where you become sensitive to what your destiny requires. Most people fear separation because they fear being misunderstood, judged, or alone. But solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is preparation. Every great leader, thinker, creator, visionary, and world changer went through a season where they had to step back from the familiar in order to step into the extraordinary. Separation gives you the freedom to think without interference, to dream without limitation, and to hear your own voice without the opinions of others drowning it out. When you constantly surround yourself with noise or cling to environments that keep you comfortable, you delay the growth that only comes through stillness and self-reflection. Thinking about yourself always means allowing yourself to withdraw when necessary so that you can return stronger, clearer, and more aligned with your purpose. When you grow, your desires change, your standards change, your priorities shift. But the people around you may stay the same, still operating from the level you have already outgrown. This creates friction because your evolution exposes their stagnation. Your hunger for growth challenges their comfort zone. Your discipline challenges their excuses. And because of this, separation becomes necessary not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. You cannot carry everyone into your next level. Some people are connected to your past version, not the one you are becoming. When you think about yourself always, you start making decisions based on your future, not your history. You begin to release attachments that slow your pace, habits that weaken your discipline, and environments that suffocate your ambition. Separation is also about protecting your mental space. You cannot elevate while surrounding yourself with people who think small, complain constantly, or discourage your dreams. Your environment influences your mindset more than you notice, and staying attached to the wrong people can sabotage your potential. There are people whose presence drains your creativity, whose conversations diminish your confidence, and whose behavior disrupts your focus. When you think about yourself always, you start recognizing these patterns with clarity. You begin choosing peace over approval, purpose over familiarity, and discipline over distraction. Separation becomes a filter that protects your mind from unnecessary weight so you can move toward your calling with strength. There is also a deeper layer to separation, the separation from your old self. As you grow, you must let go of the identity that no longer serves you. You must detach from the version of you that accepted less, tolerated disrespect, sacrificed dreams, avoided boundaries, and lived without clarity. Thinking about yourself always means confronting the habits, fears, beliefs, and patterns that have kept you small. It means acknowledging that some parts of you must be released to make room for your evolution. Growth requires shedding old skin, old mindsets, and old behaviors. You cannot become the person you are destined to be while clinging to the version of yourself that survived rather than thrived. Separation from your old self is the beginning of real transformation the moment you choose progress over familiar pain. As you elevate, silence becomes more powerful than conversation. Isolation becomes more productive than socializing. Reflection becomes more valuable than entertainment. You begin to prefer depth over noise, purpose over distraction, and alignment over validation. You start realizing that separation is not a punishment, it is a privilege. It is the sacred season where your dreams gain strength, your mind gains clarity, and your spirit gains direction. It is the period where you stop waiting for permission and start taking responsibility for your own growth. Separation exposes who is truly aligned with your vision. The right people will respect your boundaries, support your growth, and celebrate your evolution. The wrong people will resent your boundaries, fear your growth, and criticize your evolution. Thinking about yourself always means choosing the relationships that strengthen your purpose rather than weaken your identity. It means surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to rise, not people who pressure you to stay the same. Separation creates space for new connections, connections that match your future instead of your past. And the more you embrace separation, the more strongly you begin to align with the life you were meant to live. Thinking about yourself always means thinking about your purpose, your potential, and your growth. And this mindset becomes the driving force behind every meaningful transformation in your life. Most people drift without direction, moving from one day to the next without pausing to reflect on who they are becoming or where their life is heading. But when you make yourself the focus of your thoughts, not in a selfish way, but in a purposeful way, you begin to unlock a deeper awareness of your assignment, your capabilities, and the path that aligns with your true identity. Purpose is not something you chase, it is something you uncover by paying attention to the signals within you. And you cannot find those signals if your mind is constantly occupied with distractions, people's expectations, and noise that does not support your growth. Thinking about your purpose requires you to step out of autopilot living and step into intentional existence. You begin asking yourself questions most people avoid. Asterisk, what was I created to do? What strengths do I possess that I have been ignoring? What dreams keep resurfacing no matter how much I try to suppress them? Asterisk. These questions are not random, they are invitations to self-discovery. Purpose becomes clearer the more time you spend understanding yourself. When you think about yourself always, you start identifying the passions that energize you, the talents that come naturally, and the values that define your decisions. You begin noticing the things that drain you and the things that uplift you. You begin differentiating between what you are good at and what you are called to. Purpose becomes a personal compass that helps you move through life with direction instead of guesswork. Once purpose becomes clearer, potential begins to expand. Every human being is born with dormant abilities, unexplored talents, and unrealized strengths. But potential remains locked when you never turn your attention inward long enough to nurture it. Thinking about yourself always means recognizing the greatness that exists within you, even when your current circumstances do not reflect it. You start seeing yourself not as you are, but as who you can become. You begin to identify the skills you need to develop, the knowledge you need to acquire, and the habits you need to replace. Potential grows through intentional action, but intentional action only happens when you are conscious of your direction. When you think about yourself always, you begin to align your daily choices with the future you desire. You stop wasting time on things that do not elevate you. You stop accepting roles that do not reflect your value. You stop living beneath your capabilities and start building the version of yourself that your purpose requires. Your growth becomes a priority when you consistently think about yourself. Growth is not accidental, it is deliberate. It requires honesty, discipline, and a willingness to evolve. Thinking about yourself always means checking your progress, evaluating your weaknesses, celebrating your improvements, and pushing yourself toward higher standards. Every season of your life demands a different version of you. Growth requires releasing what no longer serves you, old mindsets, limiting beliefs, destructive habits, unfulfilling relationships, and anything that pulls you away from your purpose. Thinking about yourself means having the courage to confront what needs to change within you and the wisdom to take steps toward becoming stronger mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and even financially. Growth is not comfortable, but it is necessary, and it becomes impossible when you refuse to make yourself a priority. When you focus on your purpose, potential, and growth, your entire life starts aligning in remarkable ways. You attract better opportunities because you are operating with clarity. You make wiser decisions because you understand what you are working toward. You develop confidence because you recognize the value you carry. You start respecting your time, your peace, and your future. Thinking about yourself always transforms your decision-making because now you are evaluating everything through the lens of your destiny. You ask yourself, asterisk, does this align with where I'm going? Does this strengthen me? Does this support my growth? Asterisk. And anything that does not meet those standards naturally begins to fade out of your life. The more you think about yourself intentionally, the more you begin to rise internally. You no longer chase validation because you understand your identity. You no longer fear failure because you see it as a part of growth. You no longer settle for mediocrity because you recognize your potential. You begin to live with a sense of direction, purpose, and confidence that others cannot shake because it comes from within. And as you elevate internally, your external world follows. Your relationships change, your goals evolve, your environment shifts, and your life begins to align with the person you are becoming rather than the person you were. Thinking about yourself always is not selfish, it is transformational, and it is the key to unlocking the fullest expression of your life.